Okay, fellas. So we got reacting to a video right now. This is 10 oldest players in NBA history. And shout out to the original creator. This is made by Nonstop. Used to be Nonstop Sports, but now it's just Nonstop, I guess. Okay, let's watch it.
38-year-old LeBron James is in his 20th season, but he's not even the oldest active NBA player. There are 31 players who played in the NBA after their 40th birthday, and these are the 10 oldest ever. How is this guy even in the NBA? Was the most common question you'd hear about John Stockton. He was 6'1" and 170 pounds, soaking wet, with virtually zero athleticism. John Stockton looked like an accountant who sometimes plays basketball at
I'm sorry to pause it, but they were all, oh my God, John Stockton, he was incredible with the basketball. I don't know if he was that great, but all right, I'll take your word for it. You're an old dude. All right, let's get back to watching it.
The part, and nobody could foresee that this skinny white guy would become an NBA legend. But the biggest surprise wasn't how good of a passer Stockton was, but how durable he was, especially because he was one of the most physical defenders in NBA history. John constantly threw his body around the floor and set some of the dirtiest screens of all time in the NBA. Yet, while everyone around him was getting injured, Stockton miraculously kept playing. He played in 19 NBA seasons, and in 17 of those, he didn't miss a single game. Overall, he missed just 22 possible games, and his 1,504 regular season games is the 5th best mark ever. There are two secrets to his longevity. The first one, he was born with. Stockton's heart rate was measured at 35 beats per minute after 2 hours of conditioning training, twice lower than any other player. He never sweats. In the last minute of a playoff game, he looks like he's arrived for lunch after a walk. That's from his teammate Karl Malone. And the second secret is that he was one of the hardest workers in NBA history. Stockton never had an off day during his entire career, not even in the summer.
I didn't have any outside things that could distract me. I just had one thing, and that was to try to play well.
During July, he trained 2 hours a day. In August, it went up to 5 hours every day.
I've tried to make myself as prepared as I can for every contest every season.
He rarely drank alcohol and never went out clubbing, and everything in his life was set up toward basketball. That's why he played his last game at 41 years and 35 days of age, and why his assists and steals record will likely never be broken. But unlike Stockton, who was still productive after his 40th birthday, Herb Williams was basically stealing money from NBA teams. Williams was a center who came to the NBA in 1981, but stopped being effective on the court around 1992. But because teams always needed big guys to at least give them their 6 fouls, especially to foul guys like Shaq, Williams was still able to cash NBA checks for another 7 years before retiring. He averaged just 3 points per game in those last 7 years, and around 100 points per season. With his salary being around $1 million per year, it meant that in his last 7 years, he cashed in $1,000 for every point he scored, before finally...
I just got add. I'm sorry. I promise this is the last time I'm pausing. But that's not even close to an NBA minimum contract now. I'm pretty sure the minimum contract right now is $1.62 million. That's the minimum. I remember back not even 10 years ago, it was $500K. Crazy. Inflation sucks, kids.
Retiring at 41 years and 129 days old. Not bad, Herb. Not bad. And some 50 years before Williams retired, not only was it impossible for bench warmers to get paid $1 million, but the average yearly salary was only $8,000. Bob Cousy was the first ever superstar point guard, and his starting NBA salary was just $9,000. In the league ruled by big men, Cousy was widely regarded as the best ball handler in the 50s, and because of his dribbling skills, he got nicknamed the Houdini of the hardwood. Cousy led the NBA in assists for 8 years in a row, and he was an all-star every year of his career career and helped Bill Russell win 6 NBA championships. In 1963, at the age of 34, Cousy announced his retirement in the last game of the regular season, crying in front of the packed Boston Garden, who cried with him. To make his departure a happy occurrence, Cousy still played in the playoffs, and he went off into the sunset by winning another NBA title. Cousy then spent the next 6 years happily retired when the Cincinnati Royals offered him a coaching position. The money was too good for Bob to decline this offer, so he began coaching the team. Then, due to the injury of some of the players towards the end of the season, Cousy unretired his Chuck Taylors and returned to play as a player coach. He played in 7 games with a total of 34 minutes on the court, scoring 5 points and 10 assists. At 41 years and 150 days, he set the record as the oldest player in the modern NBA and would hold on to it for 19 years. And the man who broke Cousy's longevity record has just lost the all-time scoring record. LeBron may have passed Kareem in scoring, but he probably would have never passed him if Kareem didn't have to spend 4 years in college. From his rookie season at the age of 22 until the age of 38, Kareem never averaged less than 20 points per game. Kareem attributes his longevity to Bruce Lee, with whom he starred in the 1978 movie Game of Death. It was Bruce who introduced the Lakers center to martial arts and to yoga, which Jabbar credits as the single most important thing that allowed him to stay flexible and play into his 40s.
Before we worked out, we stretched all the time. I took that to another level by studying yoga and being able to advance as a yoga student, and that really was the best preventive maintenance that I could have been doing.
Kareem retired in 1989 at the age of 42 years and 6 days as the all-time leader in games played with 1,560 and total minutes with 57,446. To this day, nobody has spent more time on NBA floors than him. And while you may never break Kareem's records, with today's video sponsor SeatGeek, the #1 rated ticketing app with over 28 million downloads, there are more than 70,000 events every single day, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Every ticket across the web in one place, so you can be confident you're getting a good deal. And they're all rated on a scale of 1 to 10. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. And of course,
on that time for the sad. Gonna skip.
Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app. You do not want to pass this up, or you'll end up like Dikembe Mutombo, who wasn't able to pass Kareem in game appearances, but he did pass him in blocked shots, with exactly 100 career blocks more than Abdul-Jabbar. And the only thing longer than Dikembe's career was his name.
My name is Dikembe Mutombo.
Then Dikembe's career was his name.
My name is Dikembe Mutombo.
Dikembe Mutombo Muplondo Mukamba Jean-Jacques Mutombo. Coming from a rich African family, a 21-year-old Dikembe moved to America in 1987 to play basketball. He spent family a 21-year
country. I've seen a lot of controversy. This country here, it's actually pronounced Niger, but a lot of rich white people that like to act like they know something when they don't like the name of this, even though it's literally French. So, moving on. Geography lessons over.
Year-old Dikembe moved to America in 1987 to play basketball. He spent 4 years in college playing for Georgetown, and his NBA debut came quite late. Mutombo was nearly 26 years old when he played his first NBA game. But even though he was by far the oldest guy in his draft class, everybody from the 91 class retired way before Mutombo. Due to his size and shot-blocking ability, Mutombo was still effective in a limited role after his 40th birthday, and he believed he would win a title next to Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming. But even though the championship eluded him, Dikembe retired as a legend at the age of 42 years and 300 days. And if we're being completely honest about this next guy, his upcoming retirement is long overdue. Udonis Haslem is the only active player on this list, but he announced that he'll retire by the end of the 2023 season. Udonis is a Heat legend, spending his entire career with the franchise. After he went undrafted in the 2002 draft, Haslem played in France before returning to the US, and Miami was the only team that believed him as an undersized center. UD thanked them with hustle and leadership, helping the franchise win each of their 3 championships. He could have retired retired after the 2015 season because that was the last time he was a regular part of the rotation, but both he and the team wanted him to continue. In the last 8 seasons, he's been a unique combination of a player and an assistant coach, appearing in just 100 games and scoring a total of 174 points in 8 years. When UD finally retires, he'll be a few weeks away from his 43rd birthday. While providing veteran leadership is one way to stay in the NBA, we never would have guessed that Vince Carter was going to be that guy. Vince was the 5th pick in the 1998 NBA draft.
The Golden State Warriors select Vince Carter from the University of North Carolina.
And he was supposed to be the next Michael Jordan. He jumped as high as Michael. He had a killer first step, and his dunks electrified every arena he played in. But Vince disappointed us all. He was lazy, he was selfish, and acted like a prima donna. Without ever making a deep playoff run, Vince was a man of highlights and not of real substance. And then, just as his supreme athleticism started to wear off, Vince started to change. He finally matured. Because he couldn't rely on his aerial superpowers anymore, Carter smartly realized he needed to develop his shot, move without the ball, and completely forget his ego if he wanted to stay in the NBA.
I don't want to dunk anymore. Sorry, Barry. I'll go work on it.
Ironically, once he stopped being Air Canada and half man, half amazing, Vince became a great all-around player and a great teammate. When he was in jeopardy to lose his job in the NBA, Vince finally started working hard, and it paid off. In 2020, Carter was in his 22nd NBA season, playing for the Atlanta Hawks. 4 of his teammates weren't even born on the day he was drafted. He played his last game at 43 years and 45 days. It was the 1,541st game of his career, the 3rd most in NBA history. And despite Vince's best efforts, he still couldn't catch the indestructible Robert Parrish. Parrish is the NBA's all-time leader in games played, with 1,611. And if we count the playoffs, that number rises to 1,795, 2 games shy of Kareem's combined games in the regular season and playoffs. Just like Kareem, Parrish thanked yoga for keeping him on NBA floors for so long. I was never a big stretcher because I felt I didn't need it. But after the first yoga class that I went to, I was so embarrassed. There were older women that could touch their toes, and I could not. I'm like, I'm a pro athlete. How could I not touch my toes? And these are weekend athletes, civilians. They were touching toes, and I was struggling just to grab my shins. Other than yoga, Parrish was one of the first NBA athletes that realized the importance of nutrition. And after his first few years in the NBA, he completely gave up sugar and junk food to stay ready for the NBA games. In the first 20 years of his career, Parrish averaged 78 games per season, missing just 4 games per year. He was instrumental in Celtics' 3 championships in the 80s, and in his final season in 1997, he won his 4th title with the Bulls, becoming the oldest player to win an NBA championship at 43 years and 254 days. And that's old, but not old enough to make grandma swipe right. As for this next ancient player...
Hey, Willis, are you single? My grandma kind of likes you.
Apart from being liked by grandmas, Kevin Willis was a very good NBA player with 1 All-NBA selection and an NBA championship. He was drafted in the famous 1984 NBA draft after Olajuwon, Jordan, and Barkley, but in front of John Stockton. And while Jordan in a draft after Olajuwon...
Oh, I think I heard about this, guys. He changed his name to Hakeem. I remember this. I gotta cut the video short, y'all. Gotta go to bed. Have fun, though.